This Father's Day, celebrate the dad in your life with a special event and come on down to the Rooster Tail, located in downtown on the beautiful Detroit River, for a Father's Day luncheon that he won't forget. There'll be great food, there'll be giveaways, there'll be prizes, and outstanding entertainment. So stop searching and go online to eventbrite.com. That's eventbrite.com, and look for our Father's Day luncheon at the Rooster Tail. Get your tickets now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Dad Speak. About 3 years ago, I was interested in owning a bar. I had a conversation with a good friend who advised me to get some experience working at a bar prior to owning a bar. So I found about a bowling alley that had a bar. I applied, I got hired, and after several months of working there, my interest changed from wanting to own a bar. The person responsible for giving me the job and the experience is my guest today. He is the owner who hired me. He's an author. He also has his own counseling practice. He's married with a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old. Today, we're going to talk to him about raising babies and running a business. My guest is Justin Roth. Welcome, Justin.
Hello, Miss Sarah. How are you?
I am fine, sir. I'm so glad we were able to get together finally.
Me too.
All right. So I'm going to ask you some of the basic questions. And the first one I start off is, what city did you grow up in?
I grew up in West Bloomfield, Michigan, which is a suburb outside of Detroit.
Okay. And where'd you go to school?
Well, I went to a couple different schools. High school, I went to Walled Lake Western for about 3 months. I then went to a private military school for the remainder of that year. And then I ended up graduating from Birmingham Groves.
So how'd you end up at a military school after 3 months of high school?
Yeah, so I wasn't the best student. I was a really good kid, but my grades were always terrible. So my parents decided to send me to a military camp the previous summer, and I did really well. The military aspect of it was a lot of fun for me. I really enjoyed it. And after going to Walled Lake Western for 3 months, I had some kind of itch to say, you know what, I think I want to end up going to this school.
Wow.
I ended up going to this school, and it was a terrible, terrible experience where I learned a lot about myself and I learned a lot about what real problems look like, not just academic.
Okay.
And then when we came back home, my parents moved. So I moved high schools as well. So that's me graduating from Groves.
All right. That makes sense. So, do you have any siblings?
I do. I have an older brother.
Mhm.
I have an older sister, and then one other sister older than her.
Oh, okay. So what did your parents do for a living?
So my father is a lawyer by education, and he followed in his father's footsteps of running the bowling center that you know so well.
Yes.
And my mother is a stay-at-home mom, but she also had rental properties ever since she was, I think, 20-ish years old.
Smart.
Yeah.
So are you and your dad close? You and your siblings close? You and your mom close?
Yeah, so we're a relatively close family. My father and I work together, so we talk every day. I call my mom very frequently, and my siblings, we talk once or twice a week. We'll all connect and just see how things are going and touch base with, how the world's working and what we can do to solve problems.
So now your siblings, are they business owners as well? Or have they they're entrepreneurs? Or are they lawyers, doctors?
Yep. So my oldest sister, Angel, she is an ER doctor.
Okay.
She is also a real estate person. She owns a couple of different properties. My sister, Alicia, is a lawyer, and she also has a couple of properties. My brother, Joseph, is a firefighter, and he is not so much the entrepreneurial type, but he is a great firefighter. And then there's me. I run this, and I do counseling, and I'm trying to get into the real estate game, but I'm trying to learn it first.
Okay. Well, that's smart because my buddy said if anything you want to do, try, work there and see how you really like it before you do some. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me. All right. So you followed kind of you did follow your dad's footstep, right? Hey,
Yes, I did. I did. My father's been running or was running it for a very long time. He's still in it, but he's more on the back end now. So I did follow his footsteps.
was that your desire when you got out of school? Did you say, I'm going to go help my dad with the family business or?
So yeah, I always knew that it was going to be in my future. The first time I realized that, I think I was in fifth grade, and like I said, I wasn't a very good student. And my teacher, I think, told me, "How are you ever going to get a job if you can't do math?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to go work for my dad." And that was my way of kind of showing it to her that I don't need to learn math.
Because you're
Because I knew my dad would hire me. Although now I realize that math is important. But from that point, I knew that it was definitely a possibility. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. So I graduated high school. I failed at college for a little while until I started to succeed. I got a history degree thinking that I may go to law school, just like my father. I ended up not going to law school. I went into counseling instead many years later. But the working in our family business is an opportunity, is the way that I saw it.
okay.
It doesn't have to be something that I always do, but I'm learning so much from it. And if I ever do decide to stop doing this, I mean, I don't know what it's going to feel like, but I know that I will know a whole lot more than if I never did it.
Wow. So the pivot between being a lawyer and then being a counselor, how did that take place? I mean,
Well, kind of like you know, I wanted to be a lawyer, so I talked to some lawyers,
okay.
and it just didn't sound like something that was very fun for me. You know, they were always talking about counting the minutes, and you know, they charge hourly. They charge by how much time that is, and I didn't want to be looking at the time and worried about how much time I'm charging for.
Okay.
And then, you know, you watch TV and you're looking at all these sexy scenes of lawyers in courtrooms, and it's not like that. It's really not. So I realized that it wasn't for me. I did take the LSAT. I didn't do well, but even before that, I said, you know what, I don't think this is for me. And after college, after I graduated from ASU, I became a leadership consultant for the fraternity that I was in.
Okay.
And I got to travel around the country, and I got to visit uh, universities all over the country. East to west, I saw 50, 60 different universities.
Wow.
And I got to talk to college kids. And I was only a year removed, but they were talking about the issues within the fraternity. They talked to me about personal issues. I got to talk to them as a whole chapter, all 50 to 100. Sometimes it was only 5. But the one-on-one conversations were amazing. And I remember that when I would give somebody that like aha moment, or I could see in their eyes they understood something, it was just such a good feeling for me. So I knew there was something with the one-on-one that I wanted to do that I could try to make a living at. So I was always into sports, and I wanted to go into sports psychology. So I figured I could work one-on-one with athletes. I didn't have the credits for it. I was a history major, so I had no psychology, and I had very little math, which is what you need to become a sports psychologist, quote unquote.
Okay.
So after looking at all the different schools around the country, it turned out that Wayne State had a great counseling program. I met the prerequisites and had the credits, as well as some of the life experience that they looked for. And I decided that I would have something to fall back on, but it turns out that counseling is my true passion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful. And how old were you when you realized that?
Well, this is where it gets kind of sticky. You know, when I want to say I was 27 when I decided I wanted to go to get to my master's program.
Okay.
But I could be wrong and say it was, you know, maybe I was 30, but I think I was in my 20s. My wife always makes fun of me for not getting my years right, but I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I was still working at the bowling center. I was working full time, and I found a way to make it work. That just go do both of them, and if you want it, you'll do it. It's kind of what I thought.
Well, when you're in your 20s, you don't need a lot of sleep and stuff. So I guess you can do all of that.
Yep.
Now, I also mentioned earlier that you are an author, but
Hmm.
how are you able to work at a bowling alley, do counseling, raise your family, and write a book? How is that possible?
Well, I have support. My wife is a huge support, so that's one big thing. At the bowling center, I'd have support also. I have a team around me, and the book was something I've been working on for about 5 years. So from conception, from the first thought, it took me 5 years to actually finish it. And I want to say it was probably, I don't know, maybe about 4 or 5 months before we met that I said, you know what, I got to finish this damn thing.
Hmm.
It's been on my back for a while. I have all these different goals. I have a big whiteboard full of stuff I want to do. I said I need to knock this thing out. So one of the things that was stopping me was I didn't have an illustrator. So I'm thinking, man, I gotta find an illustrator. How do you find one? Well, it turns out that Rhonda, who runs our snack bar here, her daughter is a great artist. And I said, well, I'm writing a book about bowling. Why not keep it in the family and find someone who does it? So once I found her, I finished the book. I said, all right, I'm done doing it. And then when I had free time, I would edit, I would put things together and talk to people who had made their own books before. I'm a self-published author, so just kind of worked my way through it, and eventually I did it.
And you sold over 200 copies?
I don't know exactly that many, but I've sold a few books, and when I do sell them, it's really not how many I've sold versus when people told me they like it. They
Right.
like the book. That's really what I like.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so you're becoming a counselor. You working full time at the bowling alley. When did you decide you were going to get married and start a family?
When did I decide I was going to get
I mean, like not the year, but like, okay, my schedule kind of lightened up, or I just met this beautiful woman, and you know,
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to get married for a long time. I knew that family was important to me, but it was finding the right woman who I guess could understand my lifestyle. Um, my grandfather worked 7 days a week and was always gone. My father worked 7 days a week and attempted to be home.
okay,
I knew that I wanted to work, or I needed to work a lot in this industry, in this business, that it came with it. There's no, I'm going to stay at home and hang out. I'll be home at 6 o'clock. That I knew that wasn't a part of it. So I needed to find a woman who understood the lifestyle of running a family business and, working a business, being an entrepreneur.
mhm,
So I knew that was a part of it. I knew that early on. When I met my wife, she told me her parents did the same thing.
okay,
So that didn't make it easier. It doesn't make it so that it's under, it just she understands it more.
right.
I knew early on that I wanted to have a family. It was finding the right person to fit them, to fit the position.
Okay, so where'd you meet her?
So it turns out she grew up down the street from me. We didn't know this. I knew her older sister. Her
Okay.
sister was older than me, and we were friends.
Okay.
And we actually met online. We met on Match.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good. All right. So watching your parents and your grandparents convince you that you could handle the married life, even though you just wanted to, but you watching them, you said it doesn't look that hard. I think I can handle it.
No, it looked really hard. It looked really hard. So I looked to everybody. I don't just look to my own parents.
Right.
My mother was married before, and she ended up getting divorced. My two sisters are my half sisters.
Okay.
So I knew that there was something about marriage that sometimes things didn't work. And my father worked a lot. So, growing up, you see a lot of arguments happening. Sometimes it was about work, but just things, it was always difficult. I wasn't always there to be tended to. No one was always watching me. I'd get into trouble, and I knew that marriage wasn't an easy thing from a very early age. I had that idea.
Yeah. So, you say your parents, your mom stayed at home, your dad worked, your grandfather worked a whole lot of hours and stuff. But the times that you did spend with your dad or your granddad, how are they as them being male figures in your life?
Yeah, so it was very, very important. I don't know if my dad loved his father, and I love my father as well. Um, for me, I wasn't looking up to my dad at the time when I was younger. He was just a part of my life. He was there.
Mhm.
Um, but it was very important. I couldn't imagine not having a father, but he was working a lot.
Yeah.
He did always make a conscious effort to be at things of mine. I remember him saying one time he recognized that his father wasn't there at his baseball games, at his things, and he wanted to make an effort to be there for mine. So now, looking at the world that I have to live in, where I have to be at work at a certain time for a nighttime business, um, I appreciate the times that he was there for me because I know that work was suffering when he wasn't there.
Right.
So I look up to that and I appreciate it a lot more now.
And well, you say you've got a team, so those times when you need to be at home and stuff, how hard is it for you to delegate the team to take over so that you can, you know, be there with your family?
It's very, very difficult. I have a young man who's been working for me for the past 5 years, and I've always known that I can trust him. It's not a matter of trust for me. It's just a matter of I don't want to put them in a situation where they're not ready for something. So for me, it's all about training. It's all about communication. It's all about helping. Um, our industry is suffering a lack of mechanics, just hands-on people who know how to fix the machines and back. So if there's no one who can fix those things, I have to be there. So the times I do get to be away, it's nice. So typically when there are issues, it's machine related. But if the machines don't work in a bowling alley, that's a big problem. But
Yeah.
it's difficult. It was at one point. It's a skill that has to be learned. How to delegate, how to train, and I guess hold people accountable.
Mhm. Now, in addition to you being able to work the machines, you do a lot.
Mm,
So when I watched you, I was like, oh my God, you do everything.
mm,
You do everything. And you're just one person. And that's a 40 lane bowling now. That's a big place.
yeah.
With the bar, with the snack bar, with an arcade. That kind of like convinced me like, oh, this is a lot to want to be an entrepreneur.
It is
And
a lot. It is.
I,
That's why you need the people.
yeah, yeah. I was like, oh, that's a whole lot. So now your dad had it, your grandfather had it. How long have you been in charge?
Well, in charge is a interesting word. I would say I've been doing this full time for about, I don't know, 10 to 15 years, it seems like.
Wow.
And I worked my way up to being in charge. It wasn't just I'm in charge. I needed to learn a whole lot. And that's just 10 to 15 years of me like trying to be in charge. I worked here when I was younger, and there were people who, were managers, and I would learn from them.
Okay.
So 10 to 15, maybe it's in the middle of 12 years or so.
Wow. So now, when you get ready, will you pass it along to your children?
So I'm gonna do whatever if they wanted to, if they found joy in doing this,
Okay.
if they found purpose, I would say go for it. But like you just said, it is not easy. Um, there's a whole lot of moving parts and a whole lot of nuance. And you're dealing with the public. You're dealing with a very finicky sport of bowling where little things can cause big problems.
Yeah.
So they really have to enjoy it and they have to know what they're getting themselves into. I'm trying, family wise, I'm trying to make it so that my son, when he's married and has a family, he can be home with his kids and not have to worry about what's happening at work. I would like that for him.
Right. Right. So, like when you started, when you were single
Mhm.
and no kids, did you say, my life is pretty much under control? I've got it under control. I work this many hours, then I do, I have a personal life afterwards, and I got this. For you,
Mm, It wasn't, I would never use the word control. I was managing it okay.
Okay.
I was always an athlete, so I always played a sport. I usually found time for it. Once I really started diving in here full time, it was not as easy to manage my personal life because I was always here at nighttime. When you're a single guy, you could go out afterwards, which is okay. But maybe you want to go on a date. You want to go out at 8 o'clock. You don't want to wait till 11 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock at night.
Right.
So that part was difficult sometimes, and you have to make sure everything's staffed properly. And when there's problems, they're going to call you. So, as far as that aspect went in the business, like I said, I always knew that whoever I found, I would need to know that they understood what my role was in my business life.
Right. Right. So you get married and then you guys become parents.
Mm-hmm.
So now, not just spending time with your wife and your practice and your bowling alley, you now have to, I guess, make a pie shape and put it in quarters, or try to figure out, you got to give this baby some time too.
I do. Yeah. So
How?
business wise, when COVID happened, it was very unfortunate, and I was very upset. I was very angry because for months and months, my business was literally taken away. We were not allowed to open.
Right.
But my wife also gave birth right during COVID. So I got to spend the first 6 months with him, which would have been impossible to do if we weren't open.
Right.
So that kind of laid the groundwork for me as far as being able to spend time with them in the beginning.
Okay.
And, he's only almost going to be 3 right now. So his daytimes are free. He's not in school yet. So basically from the time we get up, which is anytime from 6:30 to 7:30 until about 2 o'clock, I'm with him. So it's just the times are flipped, where normally a father comes home 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and they get until 8 or 9. I get the morning chunk with him.
Okay.
And what my goal is, what my hope is, as he gets older and then goes into school, I will find a way at the bowling center to flip it back the other way, where I don't have to be here in the evening times.
Right.
Because that is something that my father did do a good job. He was usually home around 6 o'clock.
Oh,
I want to try and be home around that time also, so I can see him and spend time with him also, and my daughter as well.
so you think you're going to get him into sports to keep him busy?
Oh yeah. That's he's very, very smart boy, and he's very active. He has great energy. So the first thing I recommend to all fathers, put your kids in gymnastics first. That's the foundation for all athleticism.
Mhm.
Once they kind of master tucking and rolling and spinning and learning how to fall, then you let them try stuff, whatever sports you're interested, soccer, football, baseball. So that's my plan.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
So you mentioned COVID. The state was shut down. A lot of businesses that the governor considered non-essential were closed, but you were able to survive and open back up. Was it because you were already digital, with remote electronic equipment in place before the pandemic, or?
Well, as far as survive, do you mean counseling wise or bowling wise?
No, bowling wise.
Yeah, so no, there was nothing that we could do. There was absolutely nothing. Some places, some centers, they would open up low key and not tell anybody and just have like their regulars come and bowl. But for us, it really wasn't worth it. And, for bowling, everybody is allowed to bowl. Everybody can bowl. It doesn't matter who you are, age, restrictions. It doesn't matter. Everybody can do it.
Right.
But during COVID, the civility was so bad that we said it wasn't worth it. People were just going crazy because everything was so different for everyone.
Right.
It wasn't worth it. I mean, it really wasn't until, I don't know, maybe the beginning of this bowling season where everyone started to kind of just become more normal again.
Yeah.
So we survive because we have a good business practice. We don't spend wildly. We invest in our business. We're able to communicate with our customers and let them know. Facebook, Instagram, we made phone calls, and as well as our staff. Everybody, all of our staff, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3 people, returned. And the ones who didn't, it was because we no longer opened in the morning. We got rid of the morning shift.
Okay.
But everybody else returned. I don't know if it would have been the same without those returning team members.
So, because when I arrived there, you had an arcade.
Hmm.
It was cashless. For the you can use a card.
Hmm.
When you pay for bowling, you can use a card. I
Yep.
mean, you just where you would need like I guess people to go out and pull up the railings for the kids, the bumpers or whatever. You have an automatic system. Your stuff is mostly electronic.
Yeah.
Did you have that before COVID or?
Yeah, so the electronic bumpers, the automatic bumpers we've had for about, I want to say 4 or 5 bowling seasons, 4 or 5 years. The arcade was new. You got to experience the first year of it. We were literally doing that. We were in construction when COVID hit, and we had to shut it down completely. So COVID reopened, and that was kind of okay, let's continue the process with it.
Okay. That's just a lot of work. I know that they were people protesting, saying, I really need this money. And my bowling league, our bowling alley shut down and people tried to go back, and then the governor shut it down again. And they were just really they were panicking.
Yeah. It was a scary time business-wise. But now looking back on it, the silver lining is that I got to spend the first couple months with my son and really be a part of his life at that time, which normally I would not have been able to.
Yeah. So now you're at home and you're bonding with your son and enjoying your wife, and then all of a sudden they say, hey, you guys can open back up. How hard was it for you to go back to work and leave your son, your newborn son?
It was difficult, but I knew that it was coming. We actually, at the very end of COVID, we said, flying was allowed. We could fly places. So we said, let's go to Florida for a couple weeks. They had shut us down, I think for the second time. And we said, well, we're going crazy here, but they're allowing people to fly. My parents had a place down in Florida. So we said, let's go. So while we were in Florida, they said, okay, now you can open again. So immediately my brain is going, okay, like, what do we got to do? Let's get back into work mode. And I guess you turn the machine back on and it just starts going. It's kind of like riding a bike, I guess.
Wow. So eventually you figured out a schedule so that you could still spend at least 4 to 5 hours with your son.
Mm-hmm.
Go back in the building.
I don't remember exactly. Maybe in the beginning I was gone a lot more, but it eventually turned into, okay, 4 or 5 hours in the morning is spent at home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, that's a lot better than nothing. So you got your business back open. You're spending time with your son and your wife, and then you guys decide we need another baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we knew that 2 was definitely going to be in the forecast.
Okay.
And yeah, baby Misha came 3 months ago, and it's been great. She's strong and she's got a great personality, a great smile. She's going through all of her, all the things that a 3-month is supposed to do.
How about, comparing her to your son, whose personality is more dominant, like as far as like getting your attention and running the house, making you guys adjust?
Well, it's interesting. Misha is, she is 3 months. So, when she starts crying, we tend to her. We're teaching Roman now that, when he wants something, if we're talking or dealing with something, we've taught him a couple different tricks or tools so he's not just yelling, screaming. We teach him, come touch our hand, let us know that you need something, and we'll be right with you. So we're trying to start teaching him skills so he's just not always yelling and screaming, and he knows that it's okay that he doesn't need to get what he wants right away.
Okay. So how does he feel about his little sister?
He loves his little sister.
That's good.
He does. That was what we were worried about the most. How will he transition from being the only to now big brother? And he's done it quite well. He helps run the house when mom's giving her a bath and Roman hasn't taken a bath yet. He'll help. He'll get diapers. He'll grab things that are needed. He's been really, really good about it.
That's good.
Yeah.
So, does it mean at the beginning when your new baby got home, did you think you had to spend just a little bit bit more time with your son so he could feel more comfortable?
Um, we had an idea. We had a plan of what we wanted to do. We wanted to introduce him a certain way and, let him know that, baby sister was here. And I think we decided to get him a present from her. And we asked him to get a present for her to kind of, say this is a nice thing. And that really was, the presents weren't even needed. He was pretty much locked into her right away. I remember I was holding her when he came to the hospital and he says, "You don't hold baby sister. I want to hold baby sister."
Okay.
So he knew that he wanted to be big brother right away and he was going to protect her.
That's good. That's good. All right, we're going to take a break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
This Father's Day, celebrate the dad in your life with a special event and come on down to the Rooster Tail, located in downtown on the beautiful Detroit River, for a Father's Day luncheon that he won't forget. There'll be great food, there'll be giveaways, there'll be prizes, and outstanding entertainment. So stop searching and go online to eventbrite.com. That's eventbrite.com, and look for our Father's Day luncheon at the Rooster Tail. Get your tickets now.
All right, welcome back to Real Dad Speak. Again, my guest is Justin Roth, and we're talking about raising babies while running a business. We're just talking about his son, his love and affection for his new baby sister. He loved her. They got him prepared for him, and everything's been going great so far. He helps mom and all of that good stuff. So we also talked about how hard it is to schedule your time to stay with the babies, the wife, the job, and your other practice. So it's been very informative. And now we're going to talk. This is my time for my final five. And this is where I either make a statement that you can agree with or ask you a question. So my first one is, there are stats that claim owners of small startups report that managing their business is 4 times more stressful than raising children. As a new dad, which one is easier, being a dad or being a business owner?
Well, that's tough because my wife has a big part to play in the team I have at home. So at home, there's 2 owners.
Okay.
In the business, there's only 1. So I know and I trust my wife to take care of my son and my daughter. In the business side of things, I'm very fortunate currently at the moment to have somebody who I trust when I'm not here. But when he's not here, or when he decides to move on to the next part of his life, it will definitely be more stressful.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not easy. It's, you want to trust everybody and you want to give people what they need.
Right.
But you never truly know what someone's intentions are, but more importantly, what their standards are.
Mm-hmm.
So with my wife, I know what her standards are. Her standards are extremely high, and she can execute on those standards. When you're bringing people in to work a job, maybe this isn't a serious job for them. Maybe they don't know what it takes or the importance of it behind it. That's what makes it stressful. And until you find the right people for your team, it's just not good. So for any business owner out there, that's the name of the game. It's finding a good team. Being a general manager, the way I think of it, you're building a team. That's what your job is. And can you find those right people to fit what you need to make it not stressful?
Yeah, I know. Like the guy on Shark Tank, and the other billionaire entrepreneurs that say, you're supposed to work 20 hours and only sleep 4, and you get up early, you exercise, and you and I'm like, they don't have any kids. It's impossible to do that. I mean, have you ever just worked 20 hours?
No, I don't think I work 7 days a week. When I'm not here, I'm thinking of the business. when I am here, I'm working on the business and sometimes in the business, mostly in the business. So no, for, and I've asked everybody, how they do that. And I haven't found anybody who works this type of business that's not there at least 40 to 50 hours a week to do it properly. There may be some out there. They have some different situations, but in a traditional bowling center, you have to be here.
Wow. Wow. All right. Number 2, what's the most misunderstood thing about being a business owner? What do you think?
That you're a human being also.
Oh, okay. They don't realize that you are not a
Nope.
robot.
Nope, they forget about that. They think that you're either a robot or you're supposed to be here all the time, or we're still a small business, so it's impossible to be here all the time and still have a family. So sometimes things don't get done the way they're supposed to. But that's the biggest thing, is that people forget that you have feelings also, and you deserve, and your staff and your team deserve to be treated with respect as well.
Yes. Yes. All right. Number 3, in these last 2 years, what's the most valuable lessons you've learned about being a dad?
Know yourself, or make an attempt to know yourself. Really, you need to understand what your flaws are. You need to understand what you need in order to see it in your child. If you don't know yourself and you can't come to grips with all of the stuff that you have going on in here and up here, it's just not going to be as joyful as it could be. Once you see yourself in your kids, and you could say, this is what I would have needed when I was 2 years old, or this is what I would have liked to have when I was 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
It's your child. I mean, at least my experience has been that my son is me. I know when he's acting up, he needs something. He needs a hug. He needs to be heard. He doesn't have all the words. So giving him those words, or showing him, or teaching him all these different things, that's what I needed when I was younger.
So you do believe in giving that affection, that hugging?
Have to. You have to. Well, at least I have to, because I know I would have appreciated it. I didn't get that as much from my father as he probably would have liked to give himself. My father is very stoic and doesn't show much emotion, although there's a whole lot of stuff going on in there for him. For me, I wanted to make sure that I gave that to my son. I gave him that gift, that, be loving, be affectionate. If you feel it, show it, say it.
All right. That's good. All right. Number 4, what's the best advice your dad ever gave you?
My dad's given me a lot of good advice. It's mostly what I've seen from him versus what he said. Like I said, my father's very stoic. It's the work ethic that I've seen from him just growing up. Never complains, just does what he has to do. And I guess never really giving up on things. My father's he's fortunate enough to be very, very smart IQ wise. So he's able to compute things a lot faster than me. But just knowing what has to be done. And I guess now that I'm kind of talking about it, the best piece of advice he's given me is he's saying, don't work so hard.
Really?
Yeah, he says, when you can go home, go home. The business will still be here. I'm slowly learning that. It's taken me a long time, and every once in a while I feel it and I say, okay, I'm leaving. I'm done. I've done enough for today. And it is helpful for me.
I like that. The business will be here when you get back. Yeah. Go home with your family. Yeah. All right. My final question. What advice would you give a new dad who's also running his own business?
Well, I would say the same thing. Know yourself. Know what you need. Find ways to make time for it. It's not easy. It's stressful. The communication aspect is extremely important. And then your wife or your significant other is also equally as important. And be able to share with them what your expectations are, not only of them, but also of yourself, and kind of what your goals are. A business like this can never, ever work unless you know what's going on at home. Your wife's got to, in my instance, my wife has to be okay with that.
Right.
I let her know very early on what my intentions were and said, look, I'm going to work a lot and I'm hoping that the payoff is worth it. That's the only reason why I'm doing this.
Right.
If I find that the payoff isn't worth it, then I'm going to stop and I'll do something else. So far, I think it's worth it. It's tough. It's difficult. But it's having that communication with them, I'd say. Actually, as I'm talking about it, making sure that they're on board with what you're doing and them being okay with it.
I got to add a final question. Do you think your wife would want to work after the kids grow up and go get in school?
Yeah, I think she will. I think she will want to. She always said she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. She knew that was something that was inside of her.
Good.
And when the kids are at an age where they can kind of take care of themselves, I'm sure she'll revisit it. We've had those talks as well.
Good. Well, thank you, sir. It's been very informative.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to do this.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you again.
I hope you come and visit. It was great having you.
I shall. One of my goals with this podcast is to raise some money so that I could take like 5 or 10 dads on outings with their kids. One would be to the bowling alley. I like to take them to Tigers games, Pistons games, Red Wings games, sponsor, 5 or 10 dads because, you guys are busy. And you
come bowling.
If you get them to the game, will you be able to feed them? All of that should be taken care of. And that's my goal.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like to take them bowling and including fishing and camping. I think a lot of kids have not been fishing or camping. And
no, we haven't. This generation's soft. And me included. I wish I would have spent more time outdoors hunting and camping and doing things like that. It's something that I want to teach my son for sure.
Yeah, we got a lot of land, a lot of lakes. Kids need to go out and know how to make s'mores and all these rivers and lakes and stuff. They should learn how to fish and do it with their dad. That's even more special. So
yeah,
raise money, take some dads out with their kids.
Well, you're welcome to come bowling anytime. Let me know when you want to come and I'll set it up for you.
Absolutely will, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
This Father's Day, celebrate the dad in your life with a special event and come on down to the Rooster Tail, located in downtown on the beautiful Detroit River, for a Father's Day luncheon that he won't forget. There'll be great food, there'll be giveaways, there'll be prizes, and outstanding entertainment. So stop searching and go online to Eventbrite.com. That's Eventbrite.com. And look for our Father's Day luncheon at the Rooster Tail. Get your tickets